Hey, what's up, Mythgardians? Cool Cat here, and today we are going to cover one of my, I guess, more popular lists. I've had a lot of people ask me a lot of questions about this deck, so I decided I'll go ahead and make a video on it. This is a kind of different red-orange variation. This is going to be my vampire-based red-orange, utilizing Ready for Anything in order to get the most value out of your minions and to make sure that you have your vampires sticking on the board for your different synergies like Blood Dolls, like Lord Valentine, and that also does do a lot of work against a lot of the blue decks that are going around right now with a lot of their damage spells, giving your minions warded. So the vampire package, since we included another color in orange, I decided that we can't really run every single vampire that we want to. So we have kind of a bare bones vampire package right now. We have the Strigoi Pup, we have the Strigoi Pureblood, and then of course the Blood Dolls. That's the dream curve right there. You play a Pup in lane 7, a Pureblood in lane 5, with the Blood Dolls coming down in the middle the turn afterwards. It's very rare to pull it off, but when you do pull it off, it's amazing. For card draw, we're running Ichor Feast. The Ichor Feast does get some mana cost reduction from the Strigoi Familiar, since it's a vampire spell. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And then, of course, we're running 2 copies of the Strigoi Familiars. Being able to curve, go from Strigoi Familiar into a Duskwing Angel into a Lord Valentine the next turn is extremely powerful. But that is if you're able to keep your Strigoi Familiar on the board for 2 turns. And then, of course, we're running the Oak of Dodonna, and while it is a tree, it's also a vampire, so I guess it's a vampire flora, or so they say. So this also does get a nice buff from the Blood Dolls. And then we are running 2 of the Magmatars. Of course, it's just a really good AoE board clear, which this deck is sort of lacking, I guess you could say. Even though all of the removal is AoE based, there's just not that much removal in this deck. It's much more of a minion-centric deck, as you can see, running 30 minions, 9 spells, and 1 enchantment. And then we're running the Serapis False Apostle. This is a really strong minion to buff with Blood Doll. Since it has Lurker, it's easy to protect with its buffed stats. And then we're running Stairway to Hades. Of course, it's really strong to get Frenzy on any of your vampire minions. And then there's also a few minions with some really strong awaken effects that are really good on the Stairway as well. And then Gigantomachia to clear a fat board that you have trouble dealing with. And of course, Lord Valentine, the Lord of the Vampires. You have to run the top dog. And then, speaking of dogs, we're running 7 Ring Ritual. It's just a really good ender. You are pretty much out of resources on both hands. So, you slam down 7 Ring and pray they don't have a way to deal with it so you can win the game next turn. And then moving into the orange cards, we're running 3 copies of Eager Recruits to round out our 1-drops. We're running 2 copies of Rye Trickster. I was running Xerxian Recruiter in this slot before. I'm kind of not sold on Rye Trickster completely. While it is nice to have an orange 2-drop that you can curve into after your Strigoi Pup on 1, I think the card draw will benefit us a little more than the Rye Trickster's effect. But on the other hand, the Rye Trickster does help to protect our pups that we play on turn 1 with its effect. So it's a give or take depending on how you want to take the game. Then we're running 4 copies of Ready for Anything, the namesake to the deck. Generally, you'll want to play this forged on curve, of course, is the dream. But playing it unforged is fine depending on your hand size if it's early enough in the game that you have a lot of minions in hand. But try to stick with it being forged. And then we're running the Jazzurai Arquebus. This is probably one of the best 4-drops in the game right now. It's also really good at dealing with board flood, which this deck has a little bit of trouble with. Then we're running 2 parry at the gates. The agile on this minion is extremely strong. It's going to help you get a little bit extra reach to close out a lot of games that you normally wouldn't have been able to win swinging this to face for a couple of turns. And then we're running the Scion of Pride. This is a really good really good big minion removal. And then Seal of Exile, good against threats of any size, depending on the situation. And then the Armageddon Angel to clear the board so that you can have a good reset. And for the path and power, we're running Journey of Souls, and we're running Infused Journey of Souls because it's really good to get things like the Blood Doll, Strigoi Familiar back from your Boneyard. And with the way that the deck curves out, it's really common for a Blood Dolls or a Strigoi Familiar to be the first thing to die as well. And then we're running Infuse. Infuse is really strong with life tap minions and agile minions, which we have a lot of both. We have Duskwing Angel and Parry at the gates, and Strigoi Pureblood for our agile minions. Strigoi Pup, Duskwing Angel. Oh, we also have Lord Valentine for our agile minions as well. And Serapis False Apostle to round out our life tap minions. And it's also really good at trading up to protect our vampires with, say, like an Eager Recruit, Right Trickster, or an Arquebus. Alright, so up first we have a cool replay against Dust Int. So this is going to show the strength of the deck against one of the more popular aggro decks on ladder. That's YP Aggro. They use the Agile Puma to push through as much damage as possible, as fast as possible. But we're able to go toe-to-toe with them and even come out on top 90% of the time. No, maybe not exactly statistically accurate, but a lot of the time we're able to come out on top. I haven't personally lost to a yellow-purple aggro on this deck, and I've faced a few of them. But I'm going to drop the Rye Trickster here, which kind of neutralizes this Doper that they have over in the second lane. They're pretty much just going to try to clog up their board with as much small stuff as they can to fill up their Coliseum stacks to get more card draw, and also try to neutralize my Rye Trickster. So I'd go ahead and swing in the Rye Trickster first so that it's at the bottom of the Boneyard for when my Journey of Souls triggers. And before I swung it in, I used its effect on the Doper. And thankfully, Dust didn't realize that I had used the effect, so he's about to swing in with the Doper and pretty much get got by the Rye Trickster. And right here, I'm going to drop the Oak of Dodana. This is an extremely strong healing tool that's going to get me a lot of value. And I'm just going to swing around the 2-2 and make him swing into me, because you can get a lot more work done that way. And with the Pentacle of Flavors, that's kind of an extremely scary Puma. And I don't really have a solid way to deal with it, so I'm going to drop the Duskwing Angel all the way over to the side to try to get some life gain to make up for all of the life I'm about to lose due to this buff Puma. But with the juice, they're able to slide it over, and with the blast from the Puma, take out my Duskwing Angel, which is very unfortunate. So I decide to drop the Arquebus here, which they can easily take out if they just swing it around. But Dust didn't think about it, so they didn't swing the Puma this time, which is going to give me a free trade onto the 4-3. And the Pup is going to be a solid blocker against that Doper. And I'm just going to go ahead and kill off my Oak to pull out a Serapis, which is extremely strong life gain. Which is going to be key against a deck like this. And they pull the Insta Beast, which is going to be very strong on that Agile threat. They're going to do a lot of damage to me, but thankfully I already have lethal on board, so I can just swing in, and use the Serapis ability and close out the game. So this deck is extremely strong against the aggressive decks. You're able to go toe-to-toe and deal with their threats while also developing your own, and making sure that you stay at a healthy life total with all of the life gain that you have access to. And in this next replay, we are up against JJ. They are on a mono-purple list, which is pretty mid-range heavy. So this will show how easily we can deal with some mid-range decks. Now we're going to go ahead and throw our pup down on lane 7, always going for the high roll of pup, 3/2 agile vampire, and blood dolls right here. Even though it's an extreme high roll, especially in this situation where we only have one of the pieces, we're still going to go for it because you don't lose anything by going for that board state. We're going to drop the Rye Trickster because we don't have anything else to play on 2 other than a 1-drop. And they're going to kind of take care of that with the Yojimbo. We're just going to use our Infuse to take out that tree and gain a bunch of life. And drop the Parsa Recruit to kind of get some threats going a little bit. At least as much as it can be. They use the Mutton to take out the Rye Trickster, which is sad, but it's gotta go sometime. I burn the Serapis because I'm far away from 3 red gems, and I play out the parry to get some agile damage in. And they drop the Spiteful Mimic, which turns out to be pretty good against me, because not only do I draw more cards, but I also swing straight into it, discarding probably the best card in my deck in this situation, which is going to be this Blood Dolls. But I do at least kill it, so I'd lose the Blood Dolls and the Arquebus, but the Blood Dolls went down first, so it's going to be the first to come back once I get all of my souls. And they play the Jin Sook, which is going to take out my parry, so I really have to take care of that Jin Sook because it's going to take out everything in my hand other than my Scion, and I'm going to use my Scion to take out the Jin Sook. So right now we're in a pretty solid spot. Our board state is pretty weak, and we don't have much in our hand, but we do have some card draw, and really that's all you need. They play the Gamma Senin, which is just a recurring threat. Thankfully I top decked the Ready for Anything, which is going to give me some strong options. I didn't play the Ichor Feast before because I wanted to also be able to develop something in this on the board before they are able to drop all of their big guys. They have to play both Ghosts in the systems because the first one only offered them good choices, and you can't have that. But I drew my Blood Dolls from the bottom there, so I'm going to go ahead and use it to make sure that my Strigoi Pup lives, and I'm going to draw some cards with my Ichor Feast since I have a very weak hand at this point. And I'm not going to swing in my Scion. I'm going to let the Scion swing into me, and I'm just going to drop a 2/1 really quick. And the Lantern Colossus here is extremely painful, especially being able to play the Immolation Cloak as well. It's going to clear out a lot of my stronger board. But thankfully I top deck the Seal of Exile, so I can take care of that pretty easily. Then I can drop an agile vampire over in lane 6 with a Stairway to Hades in hand, giving me hopefully an agile frenzy threat, which is going to be really hard for them to block with 2 cards in hand on their next turn. So I go ahead and drop the Stairway. I also drop a Pup over in lane 7, just in case they're able to come up with 3 blockers from this board state somehow. They take out my Eager Recruit, gain 1 life, since their Mimic does have life tap. I'm going to use this opportunity to sneak in 8 damage real quick, and then I'm going to take care of this Mimic with my Magnetar. And this Master of Shadows is going to just pretty much take over this enchanted lane, so I'm not going to get much value out of that. But I do draw the parry at the gates, my other agile threat, and along with that I draw the Oak of Dodonna, and with the Oak and 3 minions on board, I'm able to play the Oak, throw in my 3 minions, they all die, and deal that last bit of 3 damage to them. For lethal, and as you can see I ended the game on 37 HP, so you can get a lot of life gain on these vampire decks. Who would have thought, right? All right, so that's the list in a nutshell. This deck is very good against aggro and mid-range deck. Where it does struggle is against value-based control decks, that are able to take care of your board state, make sure you don't stack up too many threats, or even swing in any extra damage with your agile minions. You're going to have a lot of trouble against value-based decks like red-orange, or like yellow-green, or like yellow-orange. But anything else, you're pretty much going to have either a favored matchup or at least an even matchup. So if you're not seeing a lot of control on ladder, go ahead and give this deck a try. And go ahead and give the video a like if you like the deck, and subscribe for more Mythgard content. And remember to always GG for Matt.